Well, hello everybody. Welcome back to the channel, Reading Ideas. I've got a great book for you, which I'll be talking about in a minute. I'm just speaking to you from wet, windy, darkest Lancashire, England here. So greetings to everybody. Thank you for the subscribers. It's really nice to see it growing and to see other channels and put comments and join in. So fantastic. Currently I'm just finishing off June, so I'll have a book review on that coming out soon. But before that, I thought I'd do a book review in a series of a couple of books that I've read that's kind of a little bit joined, a little bit similar. The first one that I did was Hagakure, The Way of the Samurai, and I've got another one today in a kind of a series of three, and they were all written at a time of. I'll say what the book is. So the book is The Prince by Niccolo Machiavelli. So they were all written at a time. So Hagakure, when Japan was in small provinces and they were at war. The Art of War, when China was in small kingdoms and they were all at war. And The Prince, when Italy was all small principalities and they were all at war. So war was crucial. If you weren't good at it, then your little mini culture disappeared. You were taken over, had to live the way that other people wanted you to live, or worst case scenario, you were for the chop along the way, weren't you? So it's interesting that they were all written at a time of importance. So over to The Prince. Okay. So what I will do is I'll set the scene of the book. I'll show you some pictures of paintings of him and his old house in the country, and I'll read a couple of excerpts from it. So I'll let you know when the excerpts are coming up, and you can tune out or not as is your wish if you don't want any spoilers. So, Niccolo Machiavelli, The Prince. Okay, so picture the scene. It's 1469. He's just been born in Florence to an old citizen family. So this Niccolo, he's quite a big cheese. Probably from the connections of his family. He watches popes be elected. This is the time when popes were, they were, it's kind of like the vestiges of the Roman Empire. They were semi-corrupt. Some of them had children, and created wars. It's all about domination in Europe, and Machiavelli was involved in all this, and his career was rising. He was involved with the Medici family. He's getting somewhere. He's getting a big cheese. But then the lords, if you want to call them lords, that he was attached to, lost. He goes back, back to Florence, and he loses his place in society. He's tortured. He is banished to his house in the country with his wife and 6 children. But he's an ambitious man. So what does he do? He sits down at his desk, and he puts all his thoughts, all his energies into writing a book on how a prince should run his principality. He wants to get back in favour. He wants to get back in with the Medici family, with all their money. I believe I'm writing all this. And so he writes this book. Now, this is a very, very famous book. It's give rise to, a Machiavellian figure. In Italy, I think it's very endemic in the culture. They're proud of, being Machiavelli. It gets into, maybe it gets into the mafia. Maybe it gets into the football team. The dark arts. Defending is as good as attacking. Getting away with tricking the referee, getting away with winding up your opponent. Oh, Machiavellian. So this book has had a massive cultural influence. In some areas, and you always have to check whether these people have actually read the book. It's got a bit of a bad reputation. This modern idea of a pat on the bunny ears being nice. He's not nice. Not everything he says is all sweetness and light. Now, this book, it was written on war and how to run a country, but you can read it as a teacher in thinking about how your class runs. You can read it as a business manager about your business. You can read it, you can certainly read it as in politics. Now, this idea of being nice all the time, if you're a new student teacher and you go into a class and you think to yourself, I'll just be nice and all those little kiddies will think either I'm fabulous and everything will go hunky-dory. You go and take over a football team. I'll treat them so well, I'll spoil them, I'll let them have days off and everything will be fantastic and we'll win every game. It's naive to think so. And we'll come on to, we'll have Machiavelli's words on this situation. So I'll let him say his own words. But it really is a truly magnificent book. Before we come on to some of the content of the book, I'll let you know. I'll give spoilers beforehand. But I've got a few copies of it. So I've even got a copy in Italian. I can't read Italian, but I saw it and I couldn't resist it. Il Principe, Bibliothèque Universale Rizzoli, 9th edition, volume Singolo Lira 70. Got that copy, Oxford World Classics, translation by Peter Bondinella. However, if you're going to get a copy, I recommend that you get this copy. It's a Penguin Classic and the translation is by George Bull. So credit to George Bull. The way that he has translated it, so some credit to George Bull, but obviously the majority to Niccolo, Mr. Machiavelli. It's almost poetic. It's absolutely wonderfully written. You don't even have to agree with all his points. It's just fabulously written, and you'll hear the words. Absolutely amazing. So that's the copy that I would recommend that you get. It really is fabulous. Right, okay, so what's this book about? It was written, it was written, he was trying to get back in with the Medici family, and he addresses it to them. There's quite a lot of chapters in it, 26 chapters. I'll give you the title of some of the chapters, and you can see this absolutely wonderful writing and what it's about. Okay, so if you don't want any spoilers, you want to read it from front to back yourself, then look away now. So let's go to page 49. Honestly, this is absolutely amazing writing. This is chapter 15. Listen to this title. The things for which men, and especially princes, are praised or blamed. How clever is that? It now remains for us to see how a prince must regulate his conduct towards his subject or his allies. Many have dreamed up republics and principalities which have never in truth been known to exist. The gulf between how one should live and how one does live is so wide that a man who neglects what is actually done for what should be done moves towards self-destruction rather than self-preservation. The fact is that a man who wants to act virtuously in every way necessarily comes to grief among so many who are not virtuous. Therefore, if a prince wants to maintain his rule, he must be prepared not to be virtuous, and to make use of this or not according to need. So he's talking about being flexible. He's saying, look, you're an idiot if you're nice, because not everybody else is nice. You know, it's okay saying, oh, treat everybody nice, but what is it, 0.5%, 1% of people are psychopaths? So, yeah. So, leaving aside imaginary things about a prince and referring only to those which truly exist, I say that whenever men are discussed, and especially princes, who are more exposed to view, they are judged for various qualities, which earn them either praise or condemnation. Some, for example, are held to be generous, and others miserly. Some are held to be benefactors, others called grasping. Some cruel, and some compassionate. One man faithless, another faithful. One man effeminate and cowardly, another fierce and courageous. One man courteous, another proud. One man lascivious, another chaste. One guileless, another crafty. One stubborn, another flexible. One grave, another frivolous. One religious, another sceptical, and so forth. I know everyone will agree that it would be most laudable if a prince possessed all the qualities deemed to be good amongst those I have enumerated. But, because of conditions in the world, princes cannot have those qualities or observe them completely. So a prince has of necessity to be so prudent that he knows how to escape the evil reputation attached to those vices which could lose him his state, and how to avoid those vices which are not so dangerous, if he possibly can. But, if he cannot, he need not worry so much about the latter, and then he must not flinch from being blamed for vices which are necessary for safeguarding the state. This is because, taking everything into account, he will find that some of the things that appear to be virtues will, if he practices them, ruin him, and some of the things that appear to be vices will bring him security and prosperity. You know, even if you disagree with him, what absolutely wonderful, wonderful writing. It's absolutely amazing. He talks about generosity and parsimony. Really, really good. So, starting with the first of these qualities I enumerated above, I say it would be splendid if one had a reputation for generosity. Nonetheless, if you do in fact earn a reputation for generosity, you will come to grief. This is because if your generosity is good and sincere, it may pass unnoticed, and it will not save you from being reproached for its opposite. If you want to sustain a reputation for generosity, therefore, you have to be ostentatiously lavish, and a prince acting in that fashion will soon squander all his resources, only to be forced in the end, if he wants to maintain his reputation, to lay excessive burdens on the people. Yeah, absolutely amazing. Goes on about it in a lot more detail. I don't want to spoil the full thing. Okay, now, this is one of my favourite chapters. Listen to this for a title. Cruelty and Compassion, and whether it is better to be loved than feared, or the reverse. Taking others of the qualities I enumerated above, I say that a prince must want to have a reputation for compassion, rather than for cruelty. Nonetheless, he must be careful that he does not make bad use of compassion. Caesar Borgia was accounted cruel. Nevertheless, this cruelty of his reformed the Romagna, brought it unity, and restored order and obedience. On reflection, it will be seen that there was more compassion in Caesar than in the Florentine people, who, to escape being called cruel, allowed Pistoia to be devastated. So a prince must not worry if he incurs reproach for his cruelty, so long as he keeps his subjects united and loyal. By making an example or two, he will prove more compassionate than those who, being too compassionate, allow disorders which lead to murder and rapine. These nearly always harm the whole community, whereas executions ordered by a prince only affect individuals. Okay, so you might not be talking about executions if you're running a business, but if there's no order, then everybody suffers, is what he's saying. And he's saying it's naive to think that at times you won't have to be cruel. If you think, it might not be a thing in America, but one of the best football managers in England over recent times has been Alex Ferguson. And if the point that he's making is that there's a difference between loved, feared and hated. You can make a mistake as a new teacher, as a new manager, in a business or with a football team, that to be loved, you need to be liked. And he's saying that that's not the case, that you can separate out the two. So if you take somebody like Alex Ferguson, he was feared, but he wasn't hated, he was loved. And that's a mistake that people can make when you're new to leadership. You think, hang on, if they fear me, then that'll be a bad thing. I'll be hated. And that isn't true. It can be a separate thing, that you can be feared, but also loved. You can fear your daddy, but also love him. You can fear your mum, but also love her. You can fear your boss, but also have great love and respect for what's going on. And, that's the point that he's trying to make. From this arises the following question: whether it is better to be loved than feared, or the reverse. The answer is that one would like to be both the one and the other, but because it is difficult to combine them, it is far better to be feared than loved, if you cannot be both. One can make this generalization about men. They are ungrateful, fickle, liars and deceivers. They shun danger and are greedy for profit. While you treat them well, they are yours. They would shed their blood for you, risk their property, their lives, their sons, so long as I said above, as danger is remote. But when you are in danger, you turn away. Any prince who has come to depend entirely on promises and has taken no other precautions ensures his own ruin. Friendship, which is bought with money and not with greatness and nobility of mind, is paid for, but it does not last and it yields nothing. So on this question of being loved or feared, I conclude that since some men love as they please, but fear when the prince pleases, a wise prince should rely on what he controls, not on what he cannot control. He must only endeavour, as I said, to escape being hated. I mean, that is incredible writing. There's not much writing that is better than that. Not much at all. How princes should honour their word. It's so wonderful. I'd love to read it to you, but I don't want to take away the pleasure of you discovering it yourself. But, that chapter 19, the need to avoid contempt and hatred. Absolutely fabulous, fabulous writing. So, don't be put off by the naysayers. Machiavelli, he's evil. Have they read the thing? If you read it, I don't think you're going to go around, murdering people and taking over the world. You might do, but if the other thing to bear in mind, if let's say you're in business, you're a football manager, you're starting out, you will be up against people who've read books like this. If the Jose Mourinhos of this world in football, crafty, make an example of somebody and, to unite your team, the dark arts. So, yeah, definitely worth a read. Fabulous book. Okay, so it'll be Sun Tzu's Art of War at some stage, which is a slightly different book. Yeah, the John Bull copy. Bye, everybody. Good reading to you all. So I can't resist slotting in this extra bit. So like I say, if you don't want to hear it, then tune out now. So chapter 18, How Princes Should Honour Their Word. Everyone realises how praiseworthy it is for a prince to honour his word, and to be straightforward rather than crafty in his dealings. Nonetheless, contemporary experience shows that princes who have achieved great things have been those who have given their word lightly, who have known how to trick men with their cunning, and who, in the end, have overcome those abiding by honest principles. You must understand, therefore, that there are two ways of fighting, by law or by force. The first way is natural to men, and the second to beasts. But as the first way often proves inadequate, one must needs have recourse to the second. So a prince must understand how to make a nice use of the beast and the man. The ancient writers taught princes about this by an allegory, when they described how Achilles and many other princes of the ancient world were sent to be brought up by Chiron, the senator, so that he might train them his way. All the allegory means, in making the teacher half beast and half man, is that a prince must know how to act according to the nature of both, and that he cannot survive otherwise. So a prince is forced to know how to act like a beast. He must learn from the fox and the lion, because the lion is defenceless against traps, and the fox is defenceless against wolves. Therefore, one must be a fox in order to recognise traps, and a lion to frighten off wolves. Those who simply act like lions are stupid. So it follows that a prudent ruler cannot, and must not, honour his word when it places him at a disadvantage, and when the reasons for which he made his promise no longer exist. If all men were good, this precept would not be good. But because men are wretched creatures who would not keep their word to you, you need not keep your word to them. And no prince ever lacked good excuse to colour his bad faith. One could give innumerable modern instances of this, showing how many pacts and promises have been made null and void by the bad faith of princes. Those who have known best how to imitate the fox have come off best. But one must know how to colour one's actions, and to be a great liar and deceiver. Men are so simple and so much creatures of circumstance that the deceiver will always find someone ready to be deceived. A prince, therefore, need not necessarily have all the good qualities I mentioned above, but he should certainly appear to have them. I would even go so far as to say that if he has the qualities, and always behaves accordingly, he will find them harmful. If he only appears to have them, they will render him service. He should appear to be compassionate, faithful to his word, kind, guileless, and devout, and indeed he should be so. But his disposition should be such that, if he needs to be the opposite, he knows how. You must realise this, that a prince, and especially a new prince, cannot observe all those things which give men a reputation for virtue, because in order to maintain his state, he is often forced to act in defiance of good faith, of charity, of kindness, of religion, and show he should have a flexible disposition, varying as fortune and circumstances dictate. As I said above, he should not deviate from what is good, if that is possible, but he should know how to do evil, if that is necessary. That's why the guy has the reputation he has.